All right, continuing our conversation about clay as a material for making simple press molds. Sometimes you want some information off of something and it's a little bit more complex. Now, generally, clay works best making, you know, used as making press molds for things that kind of have some volume. And again, these are just simple clay press molds that are kind of getting more like relief. But if I look at this object, I'm like, wow, there's not a lot of volume here. It's really quite thin. And if I'm to think that I can get both sides of this, how would I ever get the actual clay object out? Furthermore, if I did make a mold that had material on the inside, in other words, there's mold material here, if I push clay into it, keep in mind the clay is going to shrink. So it's just going to run into things. Probably the best way to make a mold and get this outside information would be to use plaster. This particular thing is only similar to something that a fellow classmate of yours is dealing with, but it also has this kind of undercut that runs around it that will be kind of problematic. But let me show you a way where you could get some of this information just by using a simple clay press mold process. So I've kind of given this kind of tapered cut so I could actually kind of push this down into that and it will record some of that information. And I can kind of open the clay up to kind of let this thing release because these are, again, undercuts where it's going to get stuck. The other thing that I'm going to actually do is I'm going to cover this with plastic. Now, if I wanted to recreate this exactly from this mold that I'm making, I could just take a slab of clay. Once this mold is bisque fired, I could just take a slab of clay and basically push it along and kind of finish the inside to look like this if I wanted it to look like this exactly. I kind of like this. It might be the good base, outside base of a cup or something. So I'm going to try to make one and kind of keep it for myself. So I've got this plastic here. I'm just going to kind of gently, before I push that in, I'm just going to gently kind of push this plastic down into that space. Then I'm going to push this thing down into that clay. And after I have it down into the clay, I'm actually going to come around. You see what I'm doing there? I'm pushing the clay into the side of this thing where I want to get that information. Now this will be really simple to actually make clay positives out of this clay press mold when I'm done, because I could jam clay in there. There's no clay in the middle here. I can jam clay in here and the clay is just going to shrink and pull away from the outside of this mold. So in that respect, if I can get some of this information, it will be easy to kind of, in other words, pull the positive form that I actually want in the end out of here. It's kind of like you only get one go per try. If I take this thing out and try to put it back in and start again, I need to start fresh, if you get what I'm saying. All right, so what I'm going to do now, because I know I have that undercut, is I'm just going to kind of relax this by opening it like that, and then I should be able to pull that out. And then I'm going to pull the plastic off. And I'll probably let this sit until it's leather hard before I come in here and cut. I'll get rid of this whole rim underneath. And I don't need all this extra clay drying and getting leather hard. So I'm just going to gently kind of get rid of this clay so I'm not like wasting a bunch of clay. And then I would really just try to leave the thing alone. Let it get leather hard, trim that clay around the inside. We'll look at the finish of this in another video yet to come. But clay, again, can really be used as a simple press molding material. All right.